When EVs first became mainstream, I was honestly excited because in my mind, as a designer, I thought that this would be a great opportunity to just create a skateboard platform of batteries and you can then design pretty much whatever you want on top of that. And we've seen some designs like that, I guess, but most of the EVs have turned out to be just blobs, blobs on wheels. And I think that is the case with the Porsche Cayenne EV as well. We do have new spy photos of this, and I'm honestly not sure what I think about this design. We're gonna have a look at it, compare it to the internal combustion engine from front, side, and rear, and also, of course, we need to talk again about the interior. I mean, I'm feeling like I'm just gonna give up on trying to go back to more traditional looking analog interiors with some cool craftsmanship in it. At least in this case, the layout of the four screens are decently laid out. So before we jump into Photoshop here, let's have a look at this article from Car Scoops. Gonna link it down below. Porsche's most powerful SUV could be its most controversial yet. Let me know if you're in the market for a Cayenne, would you consider getting the EV over the internal combustion engine? Yes, we do have more power in this EV, but we said it before in videos here on the channel, like horsepower doesn't really matter anymore. It's just a number that doesn't, after 700 horsepower, it doesn't necessarily add to the driving experience. So this will share design elements with the Macan Electric, offer more power than the Turbo E Hybrid version, the internal combustion engine version. You got less flowing design, separates EVs visually from its internal combustion engine sibling. A four-screen cabin layout marks a shift from Porsche's traditionally clean interiors. I don't think this necessarily look messy, this interior. It's still a clean interior, but it's almost too clean because there's nothing to appreciate in these interiors. So this prototype provides us with a clearest look yet at what's to come. The design appears more upright and muscular. Not sure about that. Not sure if I agree with that. So starting at the front with a headlight treatment that mirrors the Macan EV, you got four slim horizontal daytime running lights that also function as turn signals. And here we can see the design here, specifically from a rear view and a side view. There are a couple of things that it doesn't really look like a Porsche to me, this design. We do have some nice fenders here over the rear axle, adding some platinum-ness to this. But the taillight, it looks a little too static. It's like 100% horizontal lines. In the internal combustion engine, you have a small curvature dipping downwards at the end point of the taillights. Here is just straight up, horizontal lines, which I'm not a massive fan of. We're going to talk about the side view as well when we jump into Photoshop. And the proportions. This has typical EV proportions. It just does not look, simply doesn't look as good as the internal combustion version. This is definitely more of a blob design. We can make out the shape of the lower grills, the central positioning of the main radar unit, the general shape of the bumper as well. Those lower grills will be similar to what's found on the 992-.2 generation 911, meaning that they are active. Shutters, you got narrow LED taillights in the rear, likely joined by a light bar. When it comes to Porsche, I think Porsche, they can't have light bars in the rear because they've had it since, the reflector lights back from the 80s or 70s. So they have the right to still have light bars. It's part of their DNA. So some of the plastic design in the lower section look a little cheap here, and I agree with that. I'm not sure if I like these fan or vent designs here in the plastic. It just doesn't look beautiful to me. So here we have the interior, very stripped down. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Feature fully digital curved instrument cluster, a wide central infotainment screen. You can see that right here. You have another screen on the passenger side as well. A dedicated passenger display and a separated touchscreen for climate controls. Thankfully, it looks like we do have still the analog clock up on the dash. So we have at least one analog feature in the interior. So early estimates suggest the base model could produce around 400 horsepower. Mid-tier S variant climbing to nearly 600 horsepower. And then you have the turbo. I'm not sure why they call it turbo still. Doesn't make sense for an EV, but that could push past 1,000 horsepower. Compared it to the Cayenne Turbo E Hybrid 730 horsepower. Which one would I pick? Definitely the Turbo E Hybrid because it has a heartbeat in it. So 0 to 60 in a low 2-second range, pushing the Porsche up to top speed of 155 miles per hour or 250 kilometers per hour, limited to that speed. So the range is supposedly going to be around 350 to 400 miles on a full charge, which is not bad. Pretty decent range for a big SUV like this. Now look at the photos here. You can see that we definitely have the Macan-inspired headlights here. They're more rectangular these days than round, and we also have these 4 small LEDs inside of the headlight unit itself. Let me know what you think about this overall design. I mean, to me, it looks almost, it doesn't really have an identity to it. And then we have this EV wheelbase as well. Doesn't look that great to me. I mean, to me, it's an obvious choice to go with the turbo e-hybrid for sure. Learn design sketching online with me. My online class is now only $47. If you have any desire to pick up the skill of sketching products using simple tools such as just a big pen and some cheap print paper, this is something you want to check out. Now, over the years, I've taught over thousands of students from all around the world how to sketch cars and products using my simple sketching techniques, and most of them have seen amazing results from my classes. Analog Designer Pro Pack is the full bundle of all my classes I've released over the years, and it's yours for just $47. You also have a lifetime access to all the videos. Check out everything that's included and see what my students have to say in the link in the description, or simply visit analogdesignerpropack.com. So let's jump in Photoshop here. Let's have a look at what's going on with the new Porsche. We have the internal combustion engine version up top, and we do have the new EV down low. Now, the reason why I think the internal combustion engine looks so much better is because we have the right proportions, and I feel like all the graphic features of this internal combustion engine version just overall feels like a much more solid design, and the stance is better as well. We have this nice separation here of the intakes. We have squared off now since 2024 facelift. We also have small intakes in the lower section. We don't have a fog light here. Would assume that this would be a fog light. Instead, it looks to be a parking sensor or something like that. And we have these beautiful lines up top on the hood, typical Porsche lines with the fenders, adding some muscle and some exotic vibe even to this SUV, because we have the headlight unit sitting inside of this beautifully sculpted fender in the front end. Looking at the EV version here, these photos, of course, from Car Scoop's, gonna link it down below if you want to go and check out all the photos. Look at the hood design, for example. It's lacking these key lines, so everything is just too smooth here. There is nothing going on. We have reduced it so much that the personality is gone for the EV, but we still have the intakes sitting pretty high up here, maybe a little higher than what we have in the internal combustion engine. I'm talking about this distance right here from the headlight unit down to the top part of the intake right there. And then we have this separation here of the bumper, I do believe, with the radar positioning right there, and some more cooling, probably battery cooling down here in this area. We also have, this is a cool feature, I do like that we have one line at least that goes around the headlight unit like this and creates a little bit of a chamfer and a housing for the key element, which is going to be the headlight unit. We also have the 4 position lights right here, typical Porsche these days. Now look at the side view. This is where it gets very, very tricky for me, because look at the side view here and the proportions. Look at the wheelbase of the internal combustion engine right here, looking beautiful. Proper proportions. Look at where the rear axle goes and compare it to just how far the front axle, for example, in the EV sits. It sits way too far front, pushed forward, and the wheelbase itself is just too long. And this is the problem I have with pretty much every single EV that comes out these days. The wheelbase is just off, even though this is not the worst case when it comes to, extended wheelbase for the EVs. This is the proportions I want to see. If they can just take this regular Porsche Cayenne like this, add a battery pack to it, I wouldn't have any complaints about the proportions at all. But it happens when we make these, we make this area here, this wheelbase longer in order to fit the battery underneath. To me, at least, it just looks strange to stretch out the axles like this, and it ruins an otherwise pretty beautiful looking SUV that is the Cayenne. And by the way, the Cayenne, since the first generation, what a transformation it has done. I mean, the first generation was not a looker. Same goes for the Panamera. It did not look good, but I think they finally figured out how to take the the styling from a 911 and turn that into different packages. I do like the line flow here. Look at this. We have this section here at the bottom of the intake right there, then going in, connecting to this line that we have in the center portion, and then this, if we soup this up a little bit, it does have a connection to what's going on in the bumper. Also has a nice muscle over the rear axle. I do think we have the same connection here, honestly. Maybe not with the front end graphics right there, but we have this line. Then it doesn't really connect to this line up here. Stuff like that, like small details like that, just doesn't make the EV look as good. It's just as simple as that. Now, we talked about the taillight design, and I wanted to show you this, what I mean when I say there is a slight curvature to the Porsche taillights. It's always been there, and you can see that in the Cayenne here as well. You see how it dips downwards, just a small subtle curvature downwards. And we also have this beautiful chamfer underneath it. I do love these taillight designs. As I said, Porsche, they have the right to have the light bar in the middle. We have exhaust pipes visible in the lower section here for the internal combustion engine version, and a nicely designed bumper that does have a connection to what's going on in the side view right there. This is a beautiful looking tail end. Looking clean, and also the graphics for the taillights, having them stretch out like this, of course, makes the overall rear end just look wider than what it actually is. Now look at the new one. This looks like a GM design or something like that. I'm not sure what is going on with the taillights, because now, instead of having this downward curvature, we now have an upward curvature like this with the end graphics. I'm not sure if that is the camo playing some tricks here, but it's for sure. Looking at this area right here, it just doesn't have the sophistication that, like we have in the internal combustion engine version right there. Specifically with these graphics here, why do we need to have all these lines going on? It looks like some sort of generator or something in the lower section. Not a beautiful look, in my opinion. We do have the diffuser down here, looking decent, not too aggressive. And we also have the wiper still visible here. I want to tuck it in here. If we're paying this much for a vehicle, don't want to have the wiper visible. I want to have it be tucked in underneath the spoiler. Now, last but not least, this interior. So they refreshed the 2024 interior, and they removed a lot of physical buttons, as you can see. But I still think that this is a decent looking interior, simply because the screens are integrated in between these two parallel lines. So the screens look like they are well integrated. They don't stick up something like this, like we used to see in a lot of vehicles these days. And I also like that we do still have a key feature right here, the analog clock still intact. And on top of that, we have the gauge cluster having a housing for it, even though it's fully digital now. Even the tachometer in the middle used to be analog, which had such a beautiful 3D design to it. That is now also completely pixelated right there. Steering wheel is great on the internal combustion engine. I do like these handles here, cup holders, and we have a couple of toggles at least right here for the climate setting. So we have a separate unit for the climate setting. So this design to me is not bad. It's honestly not the worst when it comes to digitalizing interiors because of the layout of everything that we have in here. But they had to just strip it down even further for the EV. So now you see all these climate settings here. I don't see it in the EV. Maybe we have it right here. Maybe it's these two toggles right here, and then we have a separated screen probably. I don't know. This looks to be a screen here. I'm not entirely sure. I think we have screen number 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here. And this is probably going to be, hopefully, I hope so at least, that is going to be the climate screen. So everything that's climate related, you have the toggles here still intact, physical for the fan speed, the temperature, and so on. But we also have the two parallel lines still intact. So it's not the worst interior I've ever seen, but man, I just want to go back. I mean, it's a Porsche. It's about the small details in cars like this that you want to appreciate when you step into a vehicle like this. I just don't want to have pixels replace everything in car interiors. It's just that simple, and I don't think that's too much to ask. But at the same time, car companies these days, when they implement stuff like this, interiors, they are of course saving a lot of money because it's a lot cheaper to code a pixel than it is to manufacture a physical part.